Okay, hello. So, today I want to get into conversation with ourselves, with each other, about the process of soul retrieval. Okay, so what is soul retrieval? At its simplest and at its best, it's just about coming home to yourself from the perspective of the soul as well as the perspective of the body and the mind, the heart, the spirit that exists within all of us as we are incarnating and connecting to those deeper places, the deeper root source. So, as usual, let's begin by stretching. So, we're just going to be moving our necks around. If you're sitting down like I am, you can kind of just move between cat-cow. So pushing your body outward and then maybe moving in a circle and moving in, becoming concave and then going out again. And the reason why it's so helpful to move the body as we begin tapping into a more spiritual conversation and eventually getting to the process of understanding what soul retrieval is and perhaps receiving, is because you want your body to be a part of the practice. You want your body to be a part of your spiritual space and your spiritual home. You don't want to leave the body out, right? The body is our spiritual center when we're here on this planet. And there's a lot of wisdom that is carried in the movements that we can make and just in the way that we are as formed physical beings. So it's very important to value the body and move with it. However it asks you to move, do that movement. Don't judge yourself. Don't put too much pressure on it. It can be really simple, but just engage. Engage your body. Okay. So let's tap into where we are right now, where our spirit is, where our souls are. You can take a few deep breaths, couple breaths, and just begin to get into your spirit. Get into yourself. There's no right or wrong way to do this, as long as you are putting the intention behind it. You want to connect. You have a desire to connect. And it is safe to connect. One thing that we don't give ourselves enough credit for as incarnating beings is how well we are able to get by without the soul guiding us. As human beings, just people, just animals, creatures of this earth, survival is our instinct. It is our nature to try and preserve and to go on. And so despite all the odds and all of the barriers and pain that can accompany living your life without your soul right there with you, many of us do that. Many of us have to, and the soul is with you the whole time, but the proximity really does change depending on where you are in your life, what kind of life you walked into, what kind of experiences you have, and sometimes the trauma, the pain that's left behind. For many of us, for many of our ancestors, there were decades, centuries, years of living without the soul right there with them, having to go beyond, above and beyond, to prevail spiritually without having that soul guidance. And oftentimes we can just make the body, just make who we are as people a vessel. We can make it meaningless without the definition of our souls. But it's important to recognize the spirit within all, right? You're not just important because you have a soul, this elusive thing that's higher than you, that's above you, that's deep within you, that's grander than you, more wise than you. But you yourself, in your essence, you have a spirit, separate from the soul that perhaps you came from to live this current life, right? You, as the person, you have your own spirit, which allows you to keep going. Your body has their own spirit. Your heart, your mind has their own spirit. There is nothing in existence, nothing in creation without a spirit, right? And there shouldn't be this hierarchy between which is more valuable, which is more valuable. The soul is precious, yes, of course, but you are precious. Even when you feel disconnected from your soul, you are valuable. And that does not mean that you are disconnected from spirit and from spirituality, because you, in your simplest expression, just as the body, are spirit, okay? So we want to bring the body into our practice always, because that is the connecting place to have your soul join you here in this present moment. So sometimes when we go through really traumatizing experiences, and sometimes we don't even know how traumatizing they are, we can begin to feel disconnected from what we might determine to be ourself. And that little tether that we have between us and our spirit, the distance can grow. And sometimes there's pieces of us that get left behind in these different moments in our lives. And not necessarily because we abandon them, but it's almost like they're left there to be the weight that holds that moment down so that it doesn't become elusive. Because there's something important to recognize about that space, about that place, about that person, about that time. Something to dig into. And most of the pain that we receive in this life, that's where the blessing is, right? That's where the lesson is. That's where the moment of awakening, enlightenment is. So the soul, being one of our truest friends, sacrifices a piece of itself and stays there. And sometimes we have ancestors that are waiting there, waiting in the wings, in those moments, in those spaces, in those relationships that seem to be frozen in time, little dots on a map. And they go and they wait there, understanding that when you're ready, you will return, usually with more capacity to understand what happened there and to integrate the energy again and to leave behind what you no longer need. So our soul, some pieces of our soul can go and they can stay in those moments, waiting for us to return. Oftentimes we hear about this when we're doing, inner child healing, inner teenager healing, past life healing. We go and we find our old selves, and we ask for forgiveness, and we hug them and we kiss them and we tell them that we love them, and we show our armor and we say, we're strong now, we will protect you. It's safe for you to come home. It's safe for you to be here again. So we're going to do something a little like that. We're going to see where Spirit takes us. But the most important thing I want you to remember, as I'm going to try and remember it too, because I'm doing this with you, is that there really is no right way to do this. There's nothing that you have to see. There's nothing that you have to hear. There's nothing that you have to feel. There's no change that, needs to happen, and you leave this meditation and you feel different, or you feel like you've learned something. Nothing needs to happen. There's so much value in nothing, right? Because sometimes all that this space is meant to do is to produce a gap, to produce an opening, right? A space that can later on evolve to become something. But in order to have something, you need to have nothing. So if all you get from this is just pondering, waiting, more questions, nothing, blank space, that's perfect. And if you do get some life-changing revelation, then that's awesome too. But you really don't need anything but to give yourself this time and this space to relax and enjoy being with yourself a little bit and going through the moments, right? Okay, so guide us, Spirit. Or maybe let's work with let's work with the soul. So talk to us about what we need in those moments. In this moment, we're hoping to receive clarity, definition, structure, restructuring, imagination, creativity, a collapse of old ideals. We're hoping to receive. We're open to receive. And we would like to call back what we feel like has been lost. What was once lost. We would like this to now be found in this present moment. Feel free to work with your spine a little bit. At any point that you feel like you need to, just move, right? Because that's also the energy moving through your body. Wherever it leads you to go, the body's intelligent and constantly in conversation. So follow that path. But how do we get to those moments? How do we get back there? How do we identify the places where pieces of us are lost, where our ancestors are waiting for us? How do we find them? It's a lot of questions. There has to be this acceptance that you really don't know. You really don't know, and you need help. Oftentimes we avoid the feeling of helplessness, or sometimes we dig into it. And I don't know about you, but for me as a child, I really did not like feeling helpless. And yet I was put in a position where I was both helpless and the adult. I was helpless and I was the caretaker. I know that that's something that a lot of us face. Enormous responsibility, usually emotional responsibility and mental responsibility, sometimes for our family. Pressure that is too much for a child to be able to understand, and all the nuances that come with being alive and being a human. And it can make us feel very helpless as we are also trying to solve all these problems, while not being told that some of these things are not really problems to be solved at all. They are just, it's just life. It's just kind of what comes with this world, this family, this heritage, this relationship, this home, this trauma. And we can become bonded to a certain relationship with being guided, with helplessness. We can really push at it. We can embrace it. Usually, the answer lies somewhere between the victim and the survivor, right? Some people might say that they are one and the same. The victim and the survivor, and it's just about your perspective on it. And especially in this day and age, a lot of the time we don't want to be a victim, right? We want to be someone who is recognizably strong and brave and courageous and resilient. And we have this idea that victims aren't resilient in the way that a survivor is, right? Because a victim is almost stamped by that moment and defined by that and forever in the position of needing support. But a survivor goes on, right? And survivors, that really is the identity to go with being a human being. Humans are survivors. At all cost, we survive. May it be through our things, our ideas, our traditions, our stories, our children, our work. We survive through. We imbue the future with our energy in one way or another to help us go on to create that legacy. And we look at the past, and sometimes we honor the past, through traditions. Sometimes we reminisce and we wish for it. We're nostalgic for it. Sometimes we try to integrate it. We say, we are our history. You have to know your history or you'll repeat it. And it's always this thing that is behind us and something to look back on. But we know that time is not linear. And so sometimes your future lies in your past. Sometimes where that future self that you are dreaming of, that future life that you are wishing for, it's somewhere waiting for you in a past moment. that needs to be reclaimed, right? Think about all of the dreams and the wishes, the desires that you have for yourself now. Think about how many of those things were dreams that you've had since childhood. Dreams that you feel like you've had for many lifetimes. Dreams that you swear have been given to you by something bigger. They go beyond just this thing that you want to do, this thing that you want to be. It's deeper than that. It can't be explained. It can't be understood. It's painful, even, sometimes to know it at all. But it's there, and there's no way for you to get rid of it. There's no way for you to overcome it. You don't necessarily have to follow it, but it's always going to be there with you. Kind of like the past. But a lot of those dreams, we've always known those things. They're our history. A lot of our history are just dreams that have come to life. If we want to have a healthy relationship with our dreams coming true, we need to be okay with what's happened, with how our life has happened so far, how things have gone down, how it all has occurred. We have to be okay with that. Because they're all just realizations of things that have been desired, things that have been wanted by us, by our ancestors, by others. And we're affected by each other's dreams, right? Because we're all connected. And there's not really a moral standard on dreams. It's just what people have. It's what you desire. It is what it is. We don't all share the same ones. But with this web that we live in, we are connected to each other's desires, wishes. Sometimes those points of connection can be traumatic. Sometimes they can be hard and disappointing. Where is that moment for you? Just think of one. You don't need to go down the path of all the things that have hurt you, but if you can just think of one moment that you feel like you haven't been able to move past, you haven't been able to get over. That person, that thing, that rejection letter, that broken glass, that missed opportunity, the time you said no, the time you said yes. Something that feels like a failure, something that feels like misery. Right? It's those emotions. It's the ones that are kind of yikes, icky, cold. You just don't want to touch it. There's something there. There could be a miracle waiting there for you, right? And God, the universe, you don't put things in hard places for you to find. You put your gifts, you put your blessings, you put your miracles in places only you know about, so that they're safe, so that they can be protected, right? Think about all the times you would hide things as a kid in the most obscure, random places. Things that you would probably struggle to find again. But you did that for a reason, right? That version of you is like, only me will be able to find this. And only an energy that can match mine, that is equivalent to mine, that is deserving, will be able to figure this out, figure this puzzle out. You're very cunning. You're very smart. Okay? And we live in a rapidly changing, always evolving world with lots of energies that intersect, with a lot of intersections. So it's really easy to cross paths and get mixed up and find things in other people that maybe you weren't meant to find, and have people find things in your energy that they weren't meant to find. So it's important to protect yourself. And some of the ways that we protect ourselves is by hiding the gifts in these spaces that are dark and stowed away and way beneath the surface, and no one's going in there. Those places, right? The weird, creaking, wet cabin in the woods, the scary one. It's got mildew, it's got everything hanging all over it. It's a mess. No one's going there unless they're looking for what? Because what is trouble, right? Say, don't go in there. Keep out. But what's in there? We need to unlock those memories. We need to remember. You remember now, or you'll remember later. But sometimes you need to know. The answer is not to know everything. But there's a reason why a part of you stayed there, waited there. You know, you're like a soldier. And you were the one that went and was sent into exile, into this space to hold it down, to protect it. Don't you want to go talk to that part of yourself? And it's not even necessarily to go into the space and see what that version of you was protecting. Sometimes the miracle in itself is just getting to remember, to see again that version of you, to be united. Your long lost soul sister, soul brother, soul, your long lost soul. Sometimes we have to separate ourselves from ourselves to appreciate ourselves, right? We have to create that distance so that we can build the energy of longing, of yearning, of missing, of appreciation. It's a pivotal part of life. If you don't miss anything, if you don't yearn for anything, there's no point. We all know that. Desires are what moves you forward. If you have no desires, there's nothing. There's nothing to do here. That's what Earth is all about. That's what living here is all about. You have something that you want to happen, to come true. You've got a dream, and you set your whole world on it. For many of us, especially in this time, the dream is reconnection. There are pieces of our souls that have been left places from this life and lives beyond. Our soul is expansive, and we are not just reconnecting for ourselves, for this version of you, but also for the ancestral version of you, for the many ancestors that left behind many pieces so that you could go and be the one to rediscover them all, to reunite the family, to reunite the clan, to reconnect the tribe, to learn the language again. It's such a beautiful thing to get to experience reunion, reconnection. It's love in its simplest expression. Two things that are one, being sent apart from each other and then getting to be together again. It's magic, it's bliss. That whole process, it's just meant to teach you and to show you how deeply you can love. Through the act of yearning, through the process of missing something. You've got to miss things. Where we are is an ever-evolving space, place, time period. Where we are is always changing. And sometimes when those frequencies shift, when those dynamics change, there are parts of us that just can't come along this way. They can't make it up that hill. They just won't be able to do it, right? There's something to having ambition and drive and desire and courage, but some people cannot climb that specific mountain. Sometimes there are versions of yourself that can't do that walk with you. They just can't. That's not what they were built for. They don't have what they need. It doesn't mean that they don't get to go with you throughout your life, but this path you've got to take and they've got to find another. And don't you ever feel like sometimes you're in multiple places at once? Your heart's over here, your mind's over there, your body's right here. You feel split. And some parts are further away than others. If your body had to go one way and your soul had to go the other, how do you find each other again? Just hope? Just faith? How do you hear the footsteps of your soul when they're on the other side of the mountain? They chose to walk, you chose to climb. How do you hear them? How do you find them? It's this constant process of feeding into each other's spirit, right? It's about thinking about them. It's about missing them. It's about reminiscing. There's no shame in missing, in yearning for and desiring, but specifically in missing. Sometimes we can feel like, I don't want to miss them anymore. I don't want to miss that person anymore. I don't want to miss that place anymore. I don't want to miss that thing, that time in my life. I don't want to miss anymore. What you're really saying is, I don't want to be apart from the part of myself that I was when I was there, because there was something beautiful about that piece of me. We can really, really vilify the versions of ourselves that lived through really difficult moments, to the point where we try and throw it all away and act like the version of ourselves that was there is the one that's here now. And so, there's nothing of us left in those moments, so I don't want to miss it. But you can't stop thinking about it. It never leaves you. And that's because you become the moments, right? You can't really forget what you've lived. You can, but you don't want to. You are all the moments. That's why you miss. That's why you think about it. It's a love. It's an act of love. It's a love language to miss. Right? And when we're climbing the mountain, when the body is climbing the mountain and the soul is walking, the soul misses you. The soul misses the body. There's a reason why our souls come down here and incarnate. There's a reason why they choose to live again. Life is a very specific expression of existence in our entire universe. Not everything is alive in the way that incarnating beings are alive. It's a choice. And it's a choice that many make because it's a beautiful experience. And to be connected, reconnected with the body, it's a precious, miraculous experience. To have the gift of being in a body, it's sacred. It really, truly is. It's a home. It's like a warm blanket. Doesn't always feel that way. But it is sacred. It is a gift. So when we go through those moments where our souls are separate from our bodies, the soul misses you. And the body misses the soul. Because the body can go on, and the body's been here, and the body is of this earth, right? So, the body knows how to live without your specific soul. The body knows how to do that. The body knows how to get connected and stay grounded. But it's the sweetness of life. It's the pleasure. It's the childlike spirit of curiosity and excitement that the soul brings. They're new here, right? The body's from here. The body knows this world, but the soul, every time the soul comes back here, there's wonder, there's awe, there's amazement. And the body, like a grandmother, a grandfather, a parent, an older sibling, a stranger, an elder, the ancestors. The body watches that and receives new life through the soul's excitement about being alive, about being of the earth. And there's an honor and an appreciation that the soul brings to the body that they often need, because sometimes our bodies can be very hard on themselves, right? It's all about functioning and surviving and the machine and being well oiled and being well maintained and working. The body works endlessly. And it's the soul that can bring that reprieve, that can tell the body to relax, to tell the body you're doing such a great job, to thank the body. When you're feeling disconnected from yourself, how often do you thank yourself, right? Gratitude becomes really hard. Gratitude for self becomes really, really hard. Because what is there to thank? You're just doing what you have to do, right? The soul gives you that outside perspective to help you understand just what you're doing. Just how amazing what you are doing by just being is. There's a profound appreciation that your soul has for your body, a profound admiration that the soul has for the body, that you should have for your body, that you should have for yourself, because it truly is amazing what we do. And the way that you reconnect when you've been apart for some time is to miss each other, is to think about each other. Think about those moments. It is the simplest thing and it is the hardest. You need to sit in the moment with that version of yourself, with that thing, with that hurt, with that pain. You have to sit with it, and you have to miss it. Before you can even begin talking directly to it, you have to talk to it from afar. You have to talk to it in spirit. You know, like when a mother is preparing to meet her child, but they're still in the womb, she talks to the baby all the time. The way we talk to our dreams, our dream selves, the way you talk to the future, the way you talk to anything that is at a distance from you. When you have a loved one and they're in a position where maybe they can't hear you, you still talk to them. You still think about them. Those who pass on, you still talk to them. Feed that connection. Feed that relationship. Even though they're not someone that's right there, your soul might not be right here. That version of you might not be right there for you to access. You might not be able to hear anything back for a long time, but you should still talk. Because if you send out a call, it has to be received. There's nothing that you say that isn't heard. And when you choose to speak directly to those moments, it is heard. It is heard by your ancestors. It is heard by the earth. It is heard by the energy of that moment in time. It is heard by your soul. And the soul will speak back. Your ancestors will speak back. And sometimes it'll take a long time for the sound to travel all the way to where you are. Not everything moves at the speed of light. Not everything works that way. And nothing really is linear. Linear is like an imaginary concept, right? Most things are non-linear. So they can respond instantly, and you might not get that response for years. But as you begin to receive, you begin to know that version of yourself again. You begin to realize that they're there. And then it goes from missing them and wondering what's going on and this confusion and this haze and this daze to, how do I get back to you? Let's meet up. Let's connect. How do we fix this? Right? You begin to be able to have a plan. Take action because you realize that there's something to go towards. In order to have hope, to find yourself again, you have to believe that there's anything to find at all. And the only way to believe is to begin to acknowledge its presence through different ways of loving something, writing about it, singing about it, talking about it, talking to it, singing to it, writing to it, writing for it, dreaming for it, dreaming of it. You have to engage, you have to invest. Invest in the hard times in your life. Invest in that pain again. Revisit it and talk to it and ask questions and say what you're scared of and say what you're excited about. Talk to it about who you are now. Talk about the memories you remember from that time. Go back and find things from that period of your life and remember. Rebuild your vision of who you were during that time. Help them come back to life in a way that feels real. And then it can become real. It's a long process. It's not something that happens overnight at all. It doesn't need to. It's not really meant to. Sometimes this is a lifelong journey. Retrieving your soul, retrieving your vision can be lifelong. And that is perfectly okay. That's exactly how it's supposed to be. There is no timeline, right? Life is about soul retrieval. Life is about the deepest love between the soul and the body, the soul and the earth. So practice creating that love, making that love. And give yourself the gift of missing, of remembering, of yearning for, and desiring reconnection. Focus on the different moments in your life. Focus on what you want back. And speak to it. Because it'll come eventually. Okay? And in the meantime, a little yearning never hurt no one. Okay? So, thank you for being here with me and sharing this space together. And I will see you again soon. Bye.